Have you ever wondered if someone could look straight at the truth and still refuse to see it? What if the greatest blindness in the world isn't in the eyes, but in the heart? And what if a person could see clearly with their eyes, yet remain completely blind to God? In the Gospel of John, chapter 9, Jesus tells a story that challenges how we think about blindness, truth, and faith. It is not simply a story about a miracle. It is a story about the human heart. It reveals something far deeper than physical sight. It exposes the danger of spiritual blindness. Jesus had just healed a man who had been blind from birth. For the first time in his life, this man could see the world around him. Imagine the overwhelming moment when light first entered his eyes. Colors, shapes, faces, things he had never experienced before suddenly filled his vision. But while the man who had been blind received sight, something unexpected happened. Those who believed they could see, the religious leaders, revealed that they were the ones who were truly blind. After the miracle, the Pharisees questioned the man again and again. They were not celebrating his healing. They were trying to discredit Jesus. Their hearts were already closed to the possibility that God was at work. The healed man simply told the truth. Once he was blind, but now he could see. Yet the leaders refused to accept it. Instead of rejoicing in a miracle, they attacked the man and eventually drove him out of the synagogue. In their pride and certainty, they rejected the evidence right in front of them. Then Jesus found the man. This moment is powerful. After being rejected by the religious community, the man encountered Jesus personally. Jesus asked him a question that reaches across centuries and speaks directly to every human soul. Do you believe in the Son of Man? The man answered honestly, "Who is he, sir, that I may believe in him?" Jesus replied, "You have now seen him. In fact, he is the one speaking with you." For the first time, the man who had been blind not only saw with his eyes, he saw with his heart. And he said, "Lord, I believe." Then he worshipped Jesus. This is the turning point of the story. Physical sight led to spiritual sight. The man recognized who Jesus truly was. His miracle became more than a healing. It became a transformation of faith. But the story does not end there. Jesus then made a statement that reveals the deeper meaning behind everything that had just happened. "For judgment I have come into this world, so that the blind will see, and those who see will become blind." Some of the Pharisees nearby heard him and asked, almost defensively, "What? Are we blind too?" Jesus answered them with words that still challenge us today. If you were blind, you would not be guilty of sin. But now that you claim you can see, your guilt remains. This statement reveals a profound spiritual truth. True blindness is not the inability to see truth. True blindness is the refusal to accept it. The Pharisees had knowledge. They had the scriptures. They were religious experts. They believed they understood God better than anyone else. Yet when God stood in front of them, in the person of Jesus, they rejected him. Their problem was not lack of information. Their problem was pride. Spiritual blindness often grows from a heart that refuses humility. When someone believes they already know everything, they stop listening. When someone believes they are always right, they stop learning. Faith requires humility. It requires the willingness to admit that we do not see everything clearly. The healed man demonstrated this humility. He did not pretend to know everything. He simply responded to truth as it was revealed to him. First, he knew Jesus as a man who healed him. Then he recognized Jesus as a prophet. Finally, he believed in him as Lord. His understanding grew step by step because his heart remained open. In contrast, the Pharisees had already decided what they believed. No miracle, no evidence, no testimony could change their minds. This is the danger of spiritual blindness. It is possible for someone to read religious texts, attend religious gatherings, and speak religious words, yet still miss the living truth of God. Spiritual blindness happens when tradition becomes more important than truth. It happens when pride becomes stronger than faith. It happens when people are more concerned with protecting their beliefs than seeking God himself. Jesus did not come simply to perform miracles. He came to reveal hearts. His presence divides people in a surprising way. Those who recognize their need for him begin to see. Those who believe they need nothing from him become blind. The healed man represents every person who approaches God with honesty and humility. He had nothing to prove. He simply accepted the truth he encountered. But the Pharisees represent another kind of person, the one who trusts their own understanding more than God's revelation. Their eyes worked perfectly, yet their hearts refused to see. This story forces each of us to ask an uncomfortable question. Am I truly seeing the truth, or am I just assuming I already know it? Many people believe that disbelief comes from lack of evidence, but the story in John chapter 9 suggests something deeper. Sometimes disbelief comes from a heart that does not want to change. Believing in Jesus often requires transformation. It requires surrender. It challenges pride, control, and independence. For some people, it is easier to deny the light than to step into it. Light reveals things. It exposes what was hidden. When Jesus entered the world, he brought light, not just to the eyes, but to the human soul. And light always creates a decision. Some people move toward the light. Others move away from it. The healed man moved toward the light. Even when he was rejected by the religious authorities, he remained honest about what had happened to him. He did not try to fit his experience into their expectations. He simply spoke the truth. And because of that honesty, he encountered Jesus more deeply. This shows us something beautiful about God's character. When someone sincerely seeks truth, God meets them there. The man had lost his place in the synagogue, but he found something greater. He found the Son of God. Meanwhile, the religious leaders kept their positions, their authority, and their reputation, but they missed the very presence of God standing among them. This contrast is striking. One man lost everything socially but gained spiritual sight. Others kept everything socially but remained spiritually blind. It reminds us that faith is not measured by status, education, or religious background. Faith is measured by the openness of the heart. Jesus' final words in this passage reveal the deeper meaning of spiritual blindness. If you were blind, you would not be guilty of sin. In other words, if people truly did not know the truth, they would not be responsible for rejecting it. But now that you claim you can see, your guilt remains. The Pharisees were accountable because they believed they understood God. Yet when confronted with God's presence in Jesus, they refused to believe. This is the tragedy of spiritual pride. It closes the door to the very truth that could bring life. But the message of this story is not meant to condemn us. It is meant to awaken us. Every human being faces moments where truth challenges what we think we know. In those moments, we have a choice. We can defend our pride, or we can seek the truth. The healed man chose truth, and that choice changed his life forever. The story invites us to examine our own hearts. Are we willing to let God open our eyes? Are we willing to admit when we do not fully understand? Are we willing to follow the light, even if it challenges our assumptions? Spiritual sight begins with a simple but powerful step: humility before God. When we come to Him honestly, acknowledging our need for guidance and truth, our spiritual vision begins to grow. Jesus once said, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." Seeing God is not about intellectual achievement. It is about a heart that longs for truth more than it clings to pride. The man born blind could not see the world for years, but when the moment came, he recognized the light. The Pharisees had studied God their entire lives, yet they could not recognize Him standing in front of them. This contrast remains one of the most powerful warnings in Scripture. The greatest blindness is not physical, it is spiritual. It is the blindness that refuses faith. And the greatest miracle is not only the restoration of sight, it is the awakening of belief. When someone truly believes, their life begins to see the world differently. They see grace where others see coincidence. They see purpose where others see randomness. They see God's presence, even in the ordinary moments of life. Faith opens the eyes of the soul. It allows us to recognize the light of God that shines through creation, through Scripture, and through the person of Jesus Christ. The question that Jesus asked the healed man echoes through time and reaches each of us today. Do you believe in the Son of Man? The answer to that question determines whether we remain in darkness or step into the light. Like the man in the story, each of us is invited to respond, "Lord, I believe." When those words come from a sincere heart, something begins to change. Spiritual sight begins to awaken, and suddenly the world looks different. Truth becomes clearer. Faith becomes stronger, and God's presence becomes real in ways we never expected. If this message spoke to your heart, thank you for spending this time with us. Don't forget to like the video, follow the channel Holy Path Insights for more reflections on faith and scripture, and share this message with someone who may need to hear it. Thank you for watching, and may your eyes always remain open to the light of God.